In 1901, a group of Greek sponge divers discovered something impossible at the bottom of the Mediterranean Sea. It was a corroded lump of bronze and wood, barely recognizable, pulled from a 2,000-year-old shipwreck off the coast of the Greek island of Antikythera. For months, it sat in a museum, ignored and unremarkable, just another piece of debris from an ancient cargo ship. Then, it split open. Inside were gears, dozens of precisely engineered bronze gears, fitted together with a level of sophistication that shouldn't exist, not in ancient Greece, not for another 1,000 years. What the divers had found was an ancient computer mechanical device so advanced that when scientists finally understood what it could do, they were stunned into silence. This machine could predict the positions of planets, calculate eclipses decades in advance, and track astronomical cycles with breathtaking accuracy. The ancient Greeks weren't supposed to have this technology. According to everything we thought we knew about history, machines like this didn't appear until the 14th century with the invention of astronomical clocks in medieval Europe. Yet someone built this 2,000 years ago, and then the knowledge vanished. This is the story of the Antikythera Mechanism, the most mysterious artifact ever discovered. And the more we learn about it, the less we understand about our own past. To understand why this discovery is so shocking, we need to go back to where it all began. In the spring of 1900, a team of sponge divers was returning home when a violent storm forced them to take shelter near the tiny island of Antikythera. While waiting out the weather, Captain Demetrios Kondos decided they might as well dive to see if there were any sponges. What they found instead changed everything. At a depth of about 150 feet, diver Elias Stadiatis surfaced in a panic, frantically talking about bodies, horses, and faces staring at him from the seafloor. The captain thought he'd gotten nitrogen narcosis, a hallucinogenic effect from diving too deep. But when Kondos dove down himself, he realized what Stadiatis had seen. It was a shipwreck, and not just any shipwreck. It was loaded with bronze and marble statues, jewelry, and artifacts. An ancient treasure trove. The Greek government immediately organized a recovery operation. For 9 months, the divers worked in dangerous conditions, bringing up statue after statue, piece after piece of ancient cargo. It was one of the richest archaeological finds of the era. Among all these treasures, one corroded lump barely drew attention. It looked like a rock with some gear-like shapes embedded in it. Then, on May 17, 1902, something happened. The exact details are disputed, but the most common story says that archaeologist Valerios Stein noticed the lump had split, possibly from drying out, and inside, he could see what looked like a gear wheel. A gear wheel in a 2,000-year-old artifact. At first, many scholars refused to believe it was ancient. They thought it must have been a more modern object that fell into the wreck later. But as researchers examined it more closely, that explanation became impossible. The bronze alloy matched other artifacts from the wreck, and the writing on its surface was an ancient Greek script. This thing was genuinely ancient, which meant someone in the ancient world had built a machine with gears, and nobody had any idea how or why. For the next 50 years, the Antikythera Mechanism sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, frustrating everyone who tried to understand it. The problem was simple. It was too corroded and fragile to take apart. Trying to disassemble it would destroy it. Scientists could see gears and fragments of inscriptions, but couldn't understand how it all fit together. The breakthrough came in 1951 when British science historian Derek J. D. Sola Price began a systematic study. He spent over 2 decades examining every visible detail. Price realized this wasn't just a simple machine. It was an intricate computing device with at least 30 bronze gears, ranged in a complex system. When you turned a crank on the side, the gears rotated at different speeds, modeling the movements of the sun, moon, and planets. In 1974, Price published his findings, concluding that the mechanism was an ancient analog computer. But even he couldn't fully understand how sophisticated it was. That would have to wait for the 21st century. In 2005, everything changed. A team of international researchers brought a specially designed X-ray CT scanner to Athens, one that could peer inside the mechanism without damaging it. What they found defied belief. The Antikythera Mechanism wasn't just sophisticated, it was astonishingly advanced. The scans revealed the device originally had at least 37 bronze gears, made with incredible precision. The craftsmanship was so fine that it required tools and techniques that, according to standard history, didn't exist yet. The front face showed the Greek zodiac and an Egyptian calendar, while 2 smaller dials on the back tracked lunar cycles and predicted eclipses. But here's what's truly mind-blowing. The mechanism didn't just track the moon's position. It compensated for the moon's elliptical orbit, the fact that the moon moves faster when it's closer to Earth. The ancient Greeks knew the moon's orbit wasn't a perfect circle, and someone built a device to model this mathematically. This level of understanding wasn't supposed to exist until the Renaissance. And there's more. It tracked the Metonic cycle, the Ecliptic cycle, and the Saros cycle, all complex astronomical patterns used to predict eclipses and calendar dates. One dial even tracked the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. Researchers also believe it tracked the positions of the 5 planets known to ancient Greeks. Inscribed on the mechanism is an instruction manual, over 3,500 characters of ancient Greek, explaining how to use the device. This wasn't just a machine. It was a teaching tool, a scientific instrument, and a mechanical model of the cosmos. So, the million-dollar question: who made this? The ship sank around 70 to 60 BCE, but the mechanism itself might be older, built between 150 to 100 BCE. This was the Hellenistic period, an age of remarkable intellectual achievement. One theory points to the school of Archimedes. The great inventor was known to have built mechanical models of the cosmos, and perhaps his students continued his work. Another theory focuses on Hipparchus of Rhodes, perhaps the greatest astronomer of the ancient world. He lived on Rhodes, where the shipwreck route suggests the mechanism might have originated, and the astronomical knowledge inside the device aligns perfectly with his work. But here's the truly unsettling possibility. What if the Antikythera mechanism wasn't unique? What if there were dozens, even hundreds, of these devices? The knowledge required would have taken generations to develop. There must have been a whole tradition of mechanical engineering. If so, where did it go? The answer might be simple and tragic. Bronze was valuable. When devices broke, they were melted down and reused. We only have this one because it sank, protected from being recycled into coins or weapons. This brings us to one of the most disturbing aspects of the Antikythera mechanism: the knowledge gap. After this device was built, this level of mechanical sophistication completely vanishes from the historical record. For over 1,000 years, that's a millennium of lost knowledge. How does humanity forget something this advanced? The fall of the Roman Empire, the destruction of libraries like Alexandria, these events erased centuries of accumulated wisdom. But the knowledge gap may have started even earlier. By the 1st century CE, Roman writers mentioned these devices as curiosities from the past. They admired them, but apparently couldn't build new ones. The specialized skill was already disappearing. The Antikythera mechanism forces us to reconsider what we think we know about history. Technological progress isn't a straight line. It's fragile. Knowledge can disappear. Entire traditions of science can vanish if they aren't preserved. This device is a reminder that ancient people were not less intelligent than we are. They had the same capacity for abstract thought, the same drive to understand the world. Given the right circumstances, ancient engineers accomplished things that seem impossible. The Antikythera mechanism sits in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, a reminder that history is full of mysteries, and the past was far more sophisticated than we imagine. For 2,000 years, this device lay at the bottom of the sea. When it was finally found, it took another century before we could even begin to understand what it was. Somewhere in the ancient world, someone possessed knowledge we thought impossible. They built a computer from bronze gears and astronomical wisdom, and then, somehow, that knowledge was lost to time. The question isn't just how they built it. The question is, what else have we forgotten? What do you think the Antikythera mechanism tells us about ancient civilizations? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the mysteries of the past, please consider liking this video and subscribing for more. Thanks for watching.